The Archbishop of Canterbury has delivered what's been described as a scathing condemnation of the government's treatment of migrants and asylum seekers. Justin Welby described the Rwanda policy as immoral and reiterated the sentiments in his controversial Easter sermon, in which he said the policy is opposite of the nature of God. Still with me to discuss this are former Labour MP Stephen Pound and political commentator Emma Webb. Emma, this man, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby.
Where do we begin?
Is it ungodly?
I think Justin Welby needs to get his own house in order. I think he's telling the government what they should be doing on a very complex issue, and he can't even handle the situation within his own church. Just look at the census results. The Anglican Church are demonstrably failing this country. Yeah. He's got a lot of things that he ought to be doing right now, rather than commenting on this issue. I don't think he's right at all in suggesting that the government's policy on this is ungodly in any way. I think that he's not engaging with the reality of the situation, the reality of people smuggling, talking about the language that's been used around invasion.
Yeah, he said it was cruel and inhumane.
He's ignoring the fact that we have organised criminal activity from Albanian gangs, and that a lot of these men who will be coming over will be going into criminal activity in this country. So I think, he needs to, firstly, personally, I think he needs to take a more rounded and nuanced approach to this problem, and to actually listen and look at the concerns of the British people, because he's clearly extremely out of touch.
Well, you tweeted earlier today that his language, his rhetoric is quite divisive, actually.
I agree. I think that if anything, he's guilty of exactly what he's accusing the government of.
Always the thing they accuse you of.
Really is. I mean, he without sin cast the first stone. But I really do think that ultimately he needs to keep his mouth shut about these things and deal with the problems that he faces in the church, because he and his bishops are, as you know very well, Calvin, they are so politicised and so divisive. It is no wonder that their church is dying.
Right, Mr. Pound, is this the reason the Church of England is dying? Because these bishops in the House of Lords are too political and painting people that care about our country, care about protecting our borders, and care about the livelihoods of people that are crossing the borders illegally, painting them as inhumane and cruel?
No, I think that's wrong. I mean, the ABFC suffers from the same problem that many old Etonians have, is that, they can look at something from a rather privileged situation where they're particularly cosseted. What worries me is, looking at that picture you've just shown there, we're the only legislature outside the Majlis in Tehran, which actually has spiritual leaders sitting in the parliament as of right. Now, look, here's just talk about the reality. And I'm a bit worried about agreeing with Emma, but I mean, if we can totally disagree on something in a moment. But look,
the established church, I think we disagree on that.
Well, there's only one true and indivisible church. But anyway, but every week, certainly every month when I was an MP, I never dealt with less than 250 immigration cases, at least. And that was in all those years. Now, certain factors emerge from that. In certain cases, you can actually see where the world's trouble spots, whether they're from Sri Lanka or the South Balkans. You suddenly see an uptick in. But what I noticed very quickly was that the people who I was dealing with, almost all were paying agents, as they used to call it. I used to say, "How did you come here?" So I paid the agent. These were the sons of wealthy farmers, business people, and they were not the people that I thought that we should actually, from a theological perspective, be actually helping. The people we should be helping is women in Afghanistan who can't go to university.
Right.
People who are being taught, Christians who are being slaughtered in West Africa. We should be helping the people who are the weak and the starving and the hungry. We should not be helping those who are the slick and the rich, who can actually afford to pay for a luxury rigid inflatable boat to waft them across the channel.
He's got nothing to say about that.
Good. OK. But listen, there's something fundamentally and very, very wrong. But what we need to do, firstly, I'm not come across any organisation more utterly useless than the Home Office. I've actually got a marvellous letter at home, which they sent me by mistake, which said, in effect, this MP has raised another question about, just brush him off with the usual, we're looking into it. And what used to happen, people would wait for 5 years to get a determination. At the end of the 5 years, there's a thing called a regularisation of overstayers. So what would happen after 5 years? Keep your head down. You get citizenship. We've got no ID cards in this country, so we've got no idea who's in this country. If we can actually sort out that side, the pull factor, and then address the push factor, because at the moment we do need to actually have humanitarian intervention in places that worked in the South Balkans, worked in Kosovo, worked in Sierra Leone, worked in East Timor, failed disastrously in Iraq. agreed, but it did work in other places. But at the moment, the fundamental question there is that is the Archbishop of Canterbury right to talk about these things? I think he is right, but on the other hand, there is the moat and the beam here. And
he's right to talk about them, but wrong in his analysis. Mr. Pound, I'm surprised you're a Labour politician because you're talking so much sense today.